I'm Nadine Dereza, and I'm really looking forward to hosting and chairing this event. Now, I'm pleased to see that we have a good range of both public and private sector organisations and businesses attending online today to find out more about digital transformation. And when I last looked at the numbers, there were over 130 different organisations registered, which I think is a tremendous amount. So welcome one and all. Now, I think it's fair to say that the pandemic has accelerated the take-up of new technology this year. And business recovery, I would imagine, is now at the forefront of many organisations' priorities for 2021. So with that in mind, we hope that this event can help you feel more informed and inspired on your digital transformation journey, whatever stage of it you happen to be on at the moment. And it'd be great to hear your thoughts, comments, and questions throughout DT20. So feel free to start posting those via your chat facility. Now, why I'm particularly interested in hosting this event is that I've been a business presenter and journalist for over 25 years, working for a variety of publications and international broadcasters, including the FT. And my latest role has seen me reporting for CNBC, which is an international business channel, which you may have watched if you've ever found yourself staying at a hotel and have nothing better to do in an evening. Actually, it's a great channel, but then again, I would say that. And I've presented their IoT Powering the Digital Economy series, investigating how the Internet of Things creates a much more connected world. And also how smart environments are how the merging of physical and virtual worlds is disrupting and shaping different industries. And what seems to be apparent is that 5G is the foundation for realizing the full potential of IoT. So really exciting times lay ahead with 5G, edge computing, blockchain. Yes, blockchain, don't write that one off, and so on. And I don't know about you, but the Internet of Things is something that we've been talking about for quite a few years now, and it's finally becoming a reality. I mean, just take the healthcare sector. The so-called next generation mobile networks, 5G, will allow this sector to implement new services and products that should improve quality of life for all of us as people, as consumers of healthcare. And that's because 5G promises to make remote medical care a reality with high bandwidth, increased responsiveness, massive connection power, and fast speeds. Now, of course, it won't replace all face-to-face contact, all appointments and surgery, but it is and will continue to be a change agent for the future of the healthcare industry. And we've already seen, haven't we, people attending GP and hospital appointments remotely with online video calling this year. So the behavioural changes in place to some extent are already there for people to be more accepting of further digital changes coming our way. And that's just one sector. You know, think about how digital transformation is changing or could change the way you deliver things. Now, I've travelled all around the UK and the world over the years, or used to up until March, interviewing businesses about digital transformation, as well as other business and news stories as well. And without doubt, this year has been the world's greatest working from home test, which I've taken part in too, out of necessity. Now, the experience of the last few months will depend on your personal circumstances. And I think if your parents or carers, what age your children are, will probably determine your take on the situation. Now, my two children, who are fortunately 20 and 15, are less likely to interrupt a work call online whilst working from home, but not impossible. And although my daughter, having taken a gap year, actually started uni in September and is now living away from home. And I noticed that the newspaper Karonis had a field day a few weeks ago, gleefully drawing the students' freshers' experience as being behind bars at Her Majesty's pleasure, and that they should be out for good behaviour at Christmas. Now, that did strike a chord, and in many ways was a realistic depiction for her at the start. But pleased to say that my daughter has still enjoyed the student experience overall, despite being very different from my freshers' experience, or what I can remember of it. Although for some students, the isolation and remoteness has been difficult, but one would hope be made a bit easier by the technology allowing them to carry on connecting. Now, when I was first approached to chair DT20, the BT events team had no idea that back in May, when we were in lockdown 1.0, I was actually awarded a broadcast project from home for an international client. And that was based on how good my broadband download and upload speeds were. And I actually won that, and I can't take the credit for that win, but actually BT can, and I can see why the service is called Halo. So let's hope, though, by mentioning it, I'm not tempting fate today, although they put my bill up as a result of me being delighted with the service. So as you can see, I'm especially happy to be involved in DT20 today. And when you think about digital transformation from a technology point of view, it involves combining technologies to create powerful outcomes for your business. And I'd be interested to find out what digital transformation means to you as a business or organization. What outcomes are you looking for from it? And what do you view, I suppose, as the biggest obstacle or obstacles to digital transformation? And finally, is there anything BT can do to support your digital transformation strategy? Now, I appreciate I've posed a number of questions there, but it'd be great to hear your thoughts about DT, about digital transformation, via the chat facility. So please start posting your comments around that. Now you can see from the agenda on the screen that we have a number of really useful sessions lined up today. And I'm just taking you through some of those sessions. In a moment, we'll be getting the thoughts, I'm pleased to say, of Sam Toombs, who will be looking at the Wales and the Southwest strategy. Following on from that, it's our Reshaping the Future of Work with a brilliant Dr. Nicola Millard, and we're going to get some knowledge and insights from the world of agile working. We'll also be covering how 5G can bring Wales and the Southwest to life, and that's with the award-winning Fotis Karonis. And later on, we'll have Steve Benton. I'm sure Steve's won some awards along the way as well. We'll be talking about how you can embrace digital change without compromising your reputation. And the final presentation is with Ian Caveney, who will focus on green tech innovation to help businesses meet their green and sustainability goals. Plus, during the panel discussion that we've got starting around 11:30, I'm delighted to say that we're going to be joined by Tim Mullen. Tim is the IT Transformation Programme Lead from Gloucestershire Hospitals NHS Foundation Trust. And we're going to hear Tim's perspective and experience of digital transformation. I love it when we have a real client talking about their experience. I'm sure you're going to really appreciate that session as well too. So I think we have an action-packed couple of hours. Now, there are plenty of opportunities to get involved throughout. And we'd like to encourage you to ask questions as well at any time. And you can do that, as I've mentioned earlier, via the chat facility as well. And the other way we're going to be doing that is also polling you with several questions. In fact, we're going to be running a poll after each main presentation session. So please do share your thoughts and get involved with the polling. Now, to get us started this morning, we're going to find out about BT's digital strategy for Wales and the Southwest with Sam Toombs. Now, Sam, I know some of you know her already, is a business transformation champion with over 20 years leadership experience in accelerating digital services and is BT's director for the corporate and public sector of enterprise for Wales and the Southwest. Sam, welcome to DT20. The virtual floor is yours. So great to have you on the programme.
Morning everyone, and wow, what an introduction, Nadine. Thank you very much. So, hi everyone. I've been at BT for just over 2 years now, and I sit in the enterprise business within BT Group, and now run the corporate and public sector organisation for Wales and the Southwest. So since I've been here over the last 2 years, BT has undertaken arguably its largest organisational transformation in its private sector history. And I've been really proud to lead that on behalf of enterprise and corporate and public sector. What does that mean for you as our customers? And so we've invested significantly in Wales and the Southwest. And I have mobilised a large team locally. So we've created a number of local jobs for local people. And my team and I are going to serve you as our customers more than we've ever done before. and move you to the heart of our organisation more than we've ever done before. So my local team and I will get closer to you and your business, and we will help you deliver your business outcomes. And we will bring the best of BT to your door, virtually, of course, in these times, for innovation and research and bring you new ideas. And ultimately, what we want to do is help build better organisations and better businesses and places for local people. And we will do that with pride and with purpose. Next slide, please. So Nadine obviously mentioned the pandemic, COVID-19, and since the start of that, there has been a particular need more than ever to help our customers and to help our customers accelerate and evolve their business digitally. And we've been doing exactly that. So we've been helping patients connect to their loved ones in hospital. We've been helping children continue their learning from home. And we've been connecting field hospitals, mortuaries, COVID-19 lighthouse connection testing labs. And we've also been helping businesses accelerate their digital skills, their online presence, and their ability to work from home. We've also helped a number of our customers extend their payment terms as a result of them getting into financial trouble. So we're helping them survive throughout the pandemic and look forward to better times. So with a vaccine in sight, our focus is now turning to helping our customers thrive rather than survive, and how we can help them accelerate out of COVID-19 and help the local economy bounce back from the pandemic. So you can see some of the numbers on this slide. So for us, it's all about helping people, helping citizens, helping businesses. But we do, across Wales and the South West, have a huge economic impact also. Every year we get an independent report and study undertaken about how we contribute to the economy. We've got another one coming up in February, March next year, and I'm hoping the total economic impact that we have within the nation and region will increase even further. In fact, I'm certain it will. So if you have a look at some of these numbers here, clearly I'm not going to read them all out, but we have over 26,000 people, so creating local jobs for local people across the region and nation. We spend about £500 million with local suppliers, and we contribute 2.2 billion GVA to the local economy. And that I'm really proud of, and I will be immensely proud to increase on that in February, March as well. So I hope you're going to enjoy this morning. I think it's going to give you some fantastic new ideas. Let us know if we can help. Reach out. Like I said, we will be putting the customers and our customers at the heart of everything that we do moving forwards. So please do let us know if we can help you.
Thank you very much, Sam, indeed. And it was great to hear your thoughts then as well. And I think the passion for helping your customers in Wales and the South West certainly came through there. And it's great to hear that local suppliers, local people and the local economy are benefiting too. So thank you very much for Sam. And obviously we look forward to hearing from you later on as well when you take part in the panel discussion. So Sam, don't go anywhere just yet. And if you've just joined us, as a reminder for everybody else, you're welcome to use the chat feature throughout all the presentations, so to have your say and ask questions, and we'll be answering those questions and comments during the panel session later on. Well, now it's time for our first main presentation session with Dr. Nicola Millard, who's the Principal Innovation Partner at BT. And in Nicola's long and varied career at BT, she's been involved with a number of firsts, and one that caught my eye, including the first application of artificial intelligence into BT's call centres, and also initial experiments with home working. Now, Nicola currently looks at innovation from the employee perspective and also innovation around customer experience. Over the last 7 or 8 months, many of us have had to rapidly adapt, haven't we, to the way we've worked. And Nicola is going to share her insights into the world of agile working and also get you thinking about some adaptations that might work for your organisations and inspire you to evolve the way you do things in both the short and the long term so that your organisation can thrive. Nicola, great to have you here with us for DT20. Welcome to you and over to you.
Thank you very much. So hello, everybody. My name is Nicola. I did used to be officially BT's futurologist, and I'm very relieved that I no longer have a job title that always stimulates the same question, which is, do you have a crystal ball? And before you ask it, yes, I do. It just doesn't work. And to be honest, if I spent my entire day reading crystal balls or tea leaves, that would be an incredibly boring job. Now, my job title is slightly more boring. I'm a principal innovation partner. That does not mean my job is boring at all. In fact, I am part of our innovation, our wide innovation team around BT. I always, if we could get the slides up, that would be fantastic, because what I'm going to talk about today is some of the stuff that we're doing around the future of work, because it is not about tea leaves, it's about research. So much of my life is around stats. You're going to see a few stats today, because I'm going to talk about the Ds that are reshaping the future of work. And I don't do this work on my own. If we could nudge on one on the slides. BT actually does a lot of innovation. What we're incredibly bad at doing is talking about it. So part of my job is to raise people's awareness that we do innovation in the first place. We kind of go up and down on the top 10 of investors in the UK in terms of innovation. I think we're about number 4 or 5 at the moment, but I'm actually, I'm based at the moment in my kitchen in Ipswich, but 7 miles down the road is Adastral Park, which is our hub for innovation. But we also have this incredible ecosystem that ranges from universities, and we have a key strategic partnership in the West Country in the University of Bristol. And being a Bath girl originally, it's always lovely to come back to the West Country and work with the guys there. We have Cambridge University, MIT. You're getting the picture why I really don't need a crystal ball, because we have some incredible resources. But I, like Sam, am part of our enterprise division in BT. My role is to speed date, I guess, some of our customers with the innovation that we do, because we don't innovate on our own. We very much innovate with customers. My job also is to try and understand, I claim, the biggest disruptor in innovation, because I am a slightly unusual part of the team. I'm not a technologist. I'm actually a psychologist by background. So my role is to try and understand, well, why do we adopt or reject technologies in the first place? And where better to look at that than the future of work? Because frankly, home working had been possible for a very long time prior to the pandemic. In fact, BT's first experiment in home working was in fact in 1992. Now, the technology wasn't quite there then, and it has certainly, it's almost the perfect time to have a pandemic, I guess, in terms of the technologies, in that we do have cloud, we have lots and lots of collaboration technologies like video, we have the bandwidth, we have the broadband and Wi-Fi and 4G and 5G that connects us. So technology's done a lot, but it took a pandemic to shift the ways that we work. So what I'm going to do today is to very briefly go through some of the Ds that are shaping the future of work. I don't know why they all begin with the letter D, these trends, apart from the fact I'm a huge Sesame Street fan. So I've always wanted to say this session comes at you by the letter D. And if we could nudge on one on the slides, we'll start with the big D at the moment, disruption. There's a lot of that around. To be honest, I've been studying the future of work for about 10 years now, and it was always going to be automation and AI that was going to be the big disruptor. And for sure, that hasn't gone away. But of course, the big behavior change has been because of something smaller and a lot more microbial. And that has changed our feelings around things. So I call this a massive global remote working experiment. And the outcomes of this are going to be very fascinating. So my job at the moment is to try and gather data around, well, what's going on, what's going well, what's not going well, what can we learn from this, and what's sustainable into the future. This is actually some research that we published last week, so it's hot off the press, asking global business leaders and IT decision makers what they thought about, how things were going on. And actually, I think generally we're finding that people like agile working. They like the flexibility flexibility. They like the fact that they are enabled now to work from places that aren't necessarily the office. Of course, they are also missing the office. So I would say generally, we have adapted very fast. We've had to, and obviously technology's helped that. But we are seeing some strange behaviours go on. And Harvard published a study a couple of months back looking at how the average working day had changed. And one of their key findings is that, we'd found prior to the pandemic that one of the problems with home workers especially was stopping them working rather than keeping them working. And that's borne out in the data, because on average, we are working about 48 minutes a day longer than we used to when we used to commute into an office. Now, that has some interesting consequences. If we could nudge on one of which, of course, is around productivity. And that might look to be productive, in fact, but we have to kind of step back and say, okay, in terms of digital work and digital workplace, is that going to be a sustainable way of working? Now, digital workplace, I've been working on many digital workplace initiatives over the past few years with a lot of our customers. And it's quite interesting that it depends who you're working with as to what the definition of a digital workplace is. So again, I like to step back and say, okay, well, there's a whole combination of things. It's about offices, yes. It's about workplace practices, yes. It is about the technology, but actually, what's the outcome that you want from your digital workplace? And we do this research relatively regularly. To be honest, it's never a surprise that productivity is always the number one outcome. Number two is customer experience. And I have to say, again, this is the recent research, remote working has gone considerably up the table in terms of the priorities for the digital workplace, unsurprisingly, I guess. But I want to come back to productivity, because I think this is a key one. Because at the moment, certainly the largest amount of jobs that got lifted and shifted into home working were largely knowledge work. And often if you're a knowledge worker in a service economy, it's quite difficult to measure productivity, because I don't manufacture anything. My output is very intangible. So we tend to rely on productivity proxies, one of which, of course, is time. So we can measure that we're working 48 minutes a day longer, but does that make me more productive? In fact, the evidence points towards longer work hours make you less productive simply because we are human and we get tired. So I would suggest that probably isn't a sustainable one. And also I would suggest that we probably need to come up with better productivity modeling and better metrics for productivity if we're going to reinvent the ways that we work. And there are lots of metrics out there. There's things like return on idea. There's a link into well-being as well. So I'm not going to answer many questions about productivity. It is a problem, and it's something we're doing some research, certainly with the guys at MIT on. We could nudge on one. I've also been looking at, the consequences of this adaptation. And I would say, the technology has been brilliant. We've adapted. We've kind of maybe not necessarily built a solution that's going to be sustainable into the future, because we've kind of layered technologies onto legacy. And yes, that's got to be sorted out. That's not my bag, though. I'm very much looking at culture, because traditionally technology moves very fast and culture is a little bit more iceberg-like. It moves, but it moves quite slowly. So I would say in terms of our adaptation into the future and sustaining the future of work, I think things like leadership is very important. And in fact, the spotlight really has been put onto leaders during this crisis, because leadership in a crisis is very important. But I would also observe that, certainly talking to a lot of people as part of this research, that leaders have had a much larger adaptation curve than maybe the workers that work for them. Prime example, we did some interviews with contact center advisors and their managers. The agents themselves, they basically, their job got lifted and shifted from a primarily office-based work to a predominantly home-based work. But their work itself, the contents of their work hadn't changed. So a lot of them did adapt. Obviously, there are ifs and buts around connectivity and work and their actual home space. But I would say when we interviewed their team leaders, good team leaders in a contact center will walk around and manage, by just looking at people and walking around and sitting by them. And that's much harder to do in a digital workplace, because the digital workplace is quite formal. You have to kind of almost schedule everything. So they struggled a lot more. And I would say that's echoed with a lot of the management interviews that we're doing. It's not impossible to do it in digital leadership. It's just good leadership, but it's disciplined leadership and it's scheduled leadership. So leaders need to create purpose. They need to tell stories. Certainly, we can't rely on the office around us to kind of observe behaviors. Leaders have to call out good and bad behaviors. So I would say coming out of this, my biggest anxiety is what I call horrible hybrids. And we experienced this in BT. Obviously, we embraced home working quite early on. But I think it's very easy if you've got a team that's predominantly office-based and then another team that's predominantly remote. It is very easy to create two tribes. And as Frankie Goes to Hollywood says, two tribes can very easily go to war. Case in point, collaboration in a horrible hybrid. If you've got half a team in a physical office and half a team remote, it's very easy for the physical office team to just completely ignore the remote team. And we've kind of learned that digital's a great leveler here, because when we're all little boxes on a screen, we're all equally we can all equally contribute. So in actual fact, when we look at these horrible hybrids, if we've got half a team in a physical space and half a team remote, actually, the best default into the future is probably digital. Now, that's got a huge knock-on effect to things like network bandwidth in offices, because it probably wasn't budgeted to have everyone sitting on video in a meeting room. If we could nudge on one. The next D is, I call it the death of Dilbert. Now, I'm not going to kill Dilbert because he's far too sweet, but I am going to look at The Office. Now, a lot of people are saying offices are dead. I completely disagree. I think offices were in transition prior to the pandemic. It's just like most things with this pandemic, it's kind of amplifies and accelerated some of the trends. So prior to pandemic, offices were places where we went to socialize about work rather than necessarily do work. So in other words, it was a collaboration tool, a communication tool, a way of creating community. And I think it will emerge as that as we come out of the pandemic. But at the moment, we're in a transition phase where actually it doesn't serve that function at all, because we're having to social distance. It's where you go if you can't work from home at the moment. And the evidence is it's about a 70-30 split. About 70% of people are saying, I'm working fine from home. About 30% of people are really struggling. And as Nadine said right at the beginning, if you've got kids around you, that can be very difficult. This isn't necessarily home working as usual. If you're in a shared house, if you're living with your parents, certainly the case with a lot of younger employees, that isn't necessarily the optimal work environment. So we are seeing, and this has been happening for a while, when we can get people back into offices, there is certainly a prioritization list in terms of who we get in if we have to reduce our numbers down to about 40% capacity. But that doesn't kill the office. I think we're all missing the office in some senses because we miss that socialization process. So I do think that offices, they are changing. They're not necessarily about rows of desks anymore. We do need to think about constructing environments that actually do support the things that are going on in offices. So they're not dead. I think we have other choices though. And certainly one of the biggest trends at the moment looming in the background is also that third space, the coffice, I like to call it. So the co-working space where we can get out of the house, but not commute for 2 hours into an urban office. And of course, with climate change in mind, and Ian's going to talk a little bit more about green technologies later on, we need to remember that we need to do this sustainably from a climate change perspective as well. So rather than having to commute, can I get out of the house and walk or cycle somewhere where I can work and where I can get that socialization? And actually that used to be my preferred way of working. So all hail the coffice. But this is all about choice. Because we are all different, we are diverse. And that's another D. If we could nudge on one, that'd be lovely. Because actually, the other thing that we're finding from this digital experiment is that we can, as I said, digital is a great leveler. I have a friend, for example, who lives in Scotland, who's in a wheelchair, who always used to moan that everything was down south. And she had to, obviously she could travel, but it's a lot more difficult for her. She has loved this past 8 months because she's been included in absolutely everything. So I think, when we're thinking about the options as we come out of the pandemic, it isn't about working from home. It isn't about offices. It's about working from anywhere. So how do we enable that? Because we need diversity, certainly, if we want to innovate. If we could nudge on one. The next thing is around the death of distance. Now, this is an interesting one because we need to look at data to try and figure out what's going on here. And I think the evidence is that rather than having no communication going on with teams at all at the moment, that the pandemic has kind of magnified, certainly within team communication extensively. So that's, we're sending more emails to each other. We're having more meetings. Well, yeah, now that can be an issue in itself. And that's one that we're getting a lot of questions about the fact that we're having death by meeting days now, because meetings are frictionless, aren't they? So we can schedule lots of meetings. Now we're scheduling more, they're shorter, but actually death by meeting days are not productive. And that is not a problem with Teams or Zoom. It's a problem with meetings, frankly. Now, I think one of the issues that we have is we've kind of lifted and shifted the analog way of working into the digital workplace. And that hasn't necessarily worked. And if you look at organizations that are remote first prior to the pandemic, they tended to have a lot less meetings, but they would do a lot more asynchronously. So in other words, they would, chat about things on chat or email or shared spaces. And then at the point it was good to have a meeting, they would have a meeting. So I think we all need to question, should we be having this meeting in the first place? The thing that suffered is beyond the team and those serendipitous encounters, which I challenge only happen in the office, because they don't. Because frankly, if the only interesting people are in your office, I want to be in your office. There are interesting people all around the world, but a lot of that is around how do we create those connections? And technology can help, certainly social media. There's even terrifying apps. There's one called Donut out there that's a bit like Tinder for the workplace. So it matches your interests with somebody else's and kind of says, why don't you have a meeting? Now, I'm an introvert, that terrifies me, but we could potentially look at technologies to reconnect people. If we could nudge on one. But of course, I mean, if we bring in what we like to call a digital fabric, which basically the network underlies this, and we can start to layer on technologies to maybe enrich the ways that we collaborate. Not going to say too much because I know Fotis is going to talk a little bit more about some of the stuff that we're doing with 5G. But I would say what we're trying to do is to basically use technologies like virtual reality. Now, I'm a little skeptical about virtual reality. Not sure I want to sit with a headset on for 8 hours a day having meetings. I also call it vomity reality because I'm not good with those headsets on. But I think it's got some great use cases for education. Hence, you can see Nicola Sturgeon and Philip Janssen, our CEO, holding some VR headsets. But we're looking at augmented reality as part of this fabric. And certainly, we've got our 5G ambulance connecting a paramedic to a remote medic to really enrich the way that we can empower the front line. Similarly, we've got in Belfast Harbour, the guy in the orange there is a crane inspector, again, using augmented reality. He's working with his hands. So we can't necessarily give him handheld devices, but we can give him checklists and the ability to access remote expertise. With our engineers, we can certainly do all sorts of things, say with even just the smartphone, to enable our engineers to, with the permission of the customer, take control of the camera and the smartphone so that we can do a lot more around remote broadband diagnostics without actually having an engineer in the home. There is the guy in the blue is actually a Chinese miner. We're not doing this one, but it blew my mind slightly. So that guy is working from home, driving mining equipment using 5G. So wow, that you might just think that it's white collar jobs that could be done from home, but maybe blue collar jobs would as well. And then finally, we're doing quite a lot around volumetric video, which is basically my Star Wars fantasies come true. So help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. I can become a hologram. So we'll see. I mean, I think that's very early days. It's a bit clunky on that one. But if we can nudge on one, I'm running out of time. I've got 1 minute to do the death of Dolly. And actually, this is my favourite, so I'm going to try and be quick. But I think this is a very important one. And of course, it's Dolly Parton, who has saved the world. And I mean, she's an amazing person anyway. I did even buy her Christmas album in October, which is a crime. But I love Dolly. Of course, it's not Dolly I'm killing. It's the 9 to 5. And I think a lot of the discussion now again had started pre-pandemic around why do we work Monday to Friday 9 to 5? Because actually we're not doing that anymore. We have time confetti, someone has called it. And some of the problem is the technology we use. The problem's not connection, it's disconnection. So our technology throws loads of things at us. How do we maybe not multitask, because that's not productive? How do we single task? How do we learn to turn off better? And actually, we've done some work with, this is Lancaster University, you can see here, but Lancaster and Cambridge, we've been working with around how do we just simply find the off switch? That might sound really easy, but as we all know, and we're all struggling with that at the moment, it's the mental off switch that you need. We shouldn't feel guilty walking the dog. We shouldn't feel guilty taking a break, because if the object is productivity, actually that makes us more productive, not less productive, because frankly, we are not built to work 8-9 hours a day optimally. So how do we as humans actually respond better to turning off sometimes? Because that can, in the long run, help us to be more productive and work better. So those were some of the Ds. I have run out of time, so I'm going to shut up now and hand back to Nadine.
Thank you very much, Nicola. And just so you know, I'm a big fan as well of Dolly Parton, and she invested £1 million, didn't she, in one of the main vaccines. So who'd have thought that Dolly, as you said, was instrumental in saving the world? And Nicola, I love the idea of that balance between the digital and the analog. And I'm all for that. So a bit of digital, a bit of analog, and that would be the perfect way of working. But as you said, it varies from person to person and what type of family arrangement you have and your personal setup as well. I'll bring you back in again in a moment, Nicola. And I mentioned earlier, didn't I, that I'll be actually running a poll, and we have a series of polls, and it's time for the first poll. And the question that we'd like your response to is, do you agree with there is a positive correlation between productivity, employee well-being, and remote working? And you have 30 seconds to answer that poll. 4 options, very simply, to choose from: strongly agree, agree, disagree, or strongly disagree. So just a reminder of that question: do you agree with there is a positive correlation between productivity, employee well-being, and remote working? So whilst you're answering that poll, I think, there's so many important messages that Nicola mentioned just then. One that struck me is that future of work is being reshaped by digital transformation, which of course has accelerated over the last few months. But culture in all its forms that Nicola talked about really needs to catch up if we're going to back agile working going forward. And there were so many other really powerful messages. So thank you very much, Nicola, for all of those. And later on, I'll be talking about the resources page that you can access after this event, which has got some great resources of the things that Nicola was talking about. So we've got videos, podcasts, and so on. So we're waiting for the results to come through. I mean, and Nicola, from your point of view, I think obviously, we've been forced into working in a different way. I think by mid next year, do you think there'll be a better balance?
I hope so. I think the first thing I would observe is, home working. If we've been lucky enough to be able to do it, I think most of us have settled down into a routine now. So I think for those of us who have been sold on home working, and frankly, I was never a home worker. I must admit, I panicked at the very beginning when they said you could work from home. And to be honest, I then relied on a lot of my BT colleagues who have been doing it for a very long time to tell me how to do it better. And their responses were so great, we ended up putting that out as a white paper. I have to say, I think my favourite comment was allying home working to drinking at a wedding. You start far too early, you keep on going, and you end up vomiting in a cupboard. I think it broke down at the end there, but there was some great advice there. But I think most people, now they've had a flavour of it, do want to go back to the office occasionally. Yeah. I mean, the evidence is 2 to 3 days, maybe a week. But they don't want to do it every day. And I think, again, that started prior to the pandemic. It's just been accelerated. So I think employers need to think about, when does coming into the office matter? How do I change my office to support what's going on in it? But how do I support people effectively using those technologies to help them work from wherever they happen to want to work and wherever they think is the most productive way of working?
And wise words. Please say we've got the polling results in. So the question was, do you agree with is there a positive correlation between productivity, employee wellbeing, and remote working? And we have a strongly agree at 37%, but agree takes, I think, the top spot at 45%. I think I've got that right. These have been typed in to my chat area. So strongly agree, 37%, agree, 45%, disagree, 16%. I can't see the strongly disagree results, and my brain's not working. I don't think we've quite got up to the 100%, so I'd imagine the strongly disagree takes up the smaller percentage. So agree and strongly agree as well. Are you pleased with those results, Nicola? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's healthy, and that's what is being echoed with a lot of the research that we're doing, that it is for employers and employees, it can be a good thing, but it is all about choices. We can't impose a one size fits all on everyone.
Brilliant. Well, Nicola, we look forward to seeing you later again for the panel discussion. I know some questions have come into for you already, so keep those questions coming in. If there's a question specifically for Nicola, then remember to put her name down by the side of your question. That's actually if you remember. And I suppose the benefits of digital working, if you think about it, and working from anywhere, are striking. And if you can only achieve the right balance of being more productive whilst remotely working, but you have to make sure that employee well-being as the centre of this, and I thought that was a really strong message as well. So seize the opportunity to change the way we work for good. I think build on the last few months, also find the balance that innovation onboarding is not left behind as well. Difficult challenge, but one that we can all solve, I'm sure, collectively. So thank you again, Nicola. And remember to keep your questions and comments coming in via the chat facility, which we'll be answering, as I mentioned earlier, during the Q&A panel session later on. Now, moving on, it's now the turn of Fotis Karonis, the Chief Technology Information Officer for Enterprise, and also the 5G Executive Lead for the BT Group, to drive the delivery and launch of the 5G programme. Now, on this event platform, when you first entered on the homepage, you've seen the speakers' biographies, and you may have read Fotis's career highlights, and you'll notice that he's an award-winning CTO, and it's fair to say that he's very excited about the connectivity opportunities that 5G offers. Now, 5G, as I mentioned earlier, is the next generation of mobile network technology, and Fotis is going to reveal the power of 5G that it gives to organizations to work faster, even in the busiest places. And he's here to talk about how 5G is set to bring Wales and the Southwest to life as we've never experienced before. Wow, Fotis, these are huge promises. It's great to have you on this DT20 event. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. It's a huge honor to be in Wales and the Southwest. And I was listening to Nicola earlier. I mean, it's absolutely amazing and very inspiring what she said. And there was a word that she said about, apart from the D's, about culture, about collaboration, and also cycling. So I did just before joining BT in 2015, I was a CTO of EE, and we did a big cycling with a group of our teams for charity. We started from Plymouth, and we ended in Merthyr in Wales, in the heart of Wales, where we have a great call center, and that was like, I don't know, 400 kilometers. And it's the best way to get disconnected, if I may say. So it's a marvelous place, marvelous experience, loads of talent. I'm very pleased to be here, and we've just been, doing a lot of things in BT, getting the best of our networks together. We're rolling out 5G really across the UK, and we can go to the next slide. Yep, it is really about connecting for good. So these industries are super important, and they are increasingly empowered by connectivity. There's two big things that have come into play. Nadine mentioned around, the virtual world and the physical world coming together, and connectivity is becoming more and more, a network of a virtualized network, right? And it's got 5G and 4G coming together with a fixed, and creating an incredible digital fabric together with security, of course. The other big thing that is coming out is that the IT technologies are evolving and getting into the operational technologies. That means that cloud, AI, machine learning, and security are very important also on not only on the office floor, but also in the core businesses of the industries. If that is healthcare with telemedicine, is it manufacturing, IoT, education, environmental, regeneration, etc. So these technologies that we are used to being exposed on the office activity or digital workplace are absolutely now the foundations of digital transformation of the various industry verticals. Could you go to the next slide, please? Excellent. So we already, 5G has got a lot of great things, right? That it is a very big evolution on top of the 4G, and it has, it provides enhanced broadband, so we can connect at incredible speeds across devices and of different form factors, not only on, smartphones, but immersive reality experiences, machines, etc. The other one is the amazing capacity. So it's like really incredible capacity, so that you can connect the Internet of Things, cars, machines, sensors in manufacturing, etc. Everything is really, billions of devices are going to be connected. Another one is we're getting into the mission critical operations. So ultra reliable, low latency communications, latencies of less than 10 milliseconds and going down to 1 millisecond are becoming really important, not for humans anymore, because humans they can only realize something about like 30 or 50 milliseconds. It's actually machines, to talk to machines, vehicle to vehicle. Can we respond to a vehicle telling, from one vehicle that there's an obstacle in front of us so we can avoid a collision? Precision in the factories, etc. So these are very important things. The other one is about network slicing, quality of service, security, because it's, the edge points are many, many more. And slicing enables, quality of service in a national level. So if it's for NHS or if it's for the police, if it's for education, to have a really great sophisticated control of quality of service and much less interaction with other frequencies. So here is the coverage that we have done so far. So we're seeing Swansea, Cardiff, Bristol, Bath, Bridgend. We can see the areas that are growing on month by month. We have the biggest and best mobile network in the UK, and of course the best fixed network as BT and EE together. We've covered approximately 90% of the geographical mass on 4G, and 5G is really dense now, starting to become dense in the cities. We have covered about 110, 120 towns and cities today, covering approximately just over 35% of the population. Of course, it's still in cities. We're still doing a lot of work in order to densify and collate 4G and 5G into one incredible mobile, network. And we do have this best spectrum portfolio for that. Could we go to the next slide? So we will see more and more towns and cities coming in. The opportunity is that it's a digital fabric, what we're doing, and there's so much innovation. We are on the tip of the iceberg. This is a decade of I would call it, great innovation. It is a decade for industries, for healthcare, for supporting the environment, for productivity, for inclusive growth, for growing in skills. So we can imagine new types of tech jobs for Wales and the Southwest. It is an era of invention, I would call it, and the UK has so much invention capabilities, have done in the past, and further much more in the future. So this is a really great time for all these technologies coming together. And I think that one of the important things of this era is collaboration, co-creation, culture, leadership of invention, of this important curiosity of enabling productivity, creating new products and services, bringing the customer much closer to the companies. And we want to be a catalyst for that as BT Group, as a strategic partner, not for only for a period of time, but for the long time, because we want to be connecting for good, for the UK, so that we can really empower the digital transformation of the UK. But knowing that the UK is one of the most fastest growing digital societies in the world, and one of the most heaviest users, I would say, of digital transactions on a global scale. So that means that the capability that we provide will absolutely make a lot of sense for a new era of invention. So we can go to the next slide, please. I will thank you. I want to provide some views that we have done with using 5G as a catalyst, and it is a catalyst because it's not just about 5G. The 5G opportunity is around the ecosystem of applications of remote working with virtual reality, augmented reality, IoT, the possibilities around video surveillance for security, etc. So it opens up areas above connectivity. That means it provides solutions and it requires partnerships. Can we go into some of those use cases that we've done in healthcare, education, manufacturing, etc. So I'm super happy the work that we're doing with the NHS. First of all, on connected healthcare in areas that are very close to where we are. And so in the Midlands with University Hospital Birmingham, we have teamed up in early 19. So first of all, we launched, as you know, 5G in May 2019. And just before that, I knew the cities, there were cities that were going live, right? So we teamed up with a leading hospital, and we did the connected ambulance so that you could have, a medic inside the ambulance with the patient and providing a fantastic image to the remote clinician who could do diagnostic and a triage and understand if it's a problem that needs to come into the hospital or not. One of the biggest problems of our societies is that, on the one hand, we have aging population with multiple problems potentially, but the hospitals have a certain possibility for A&E, and we don't want to overload the A&Es. We don't want to overload the hospital. So we need to push the hospital to the home, to the care home, so that we can be more proactive and enable people to be treated from a distance. And we've seen with the COVID situation that 80% of these sort of discussions are done over video. So that means telemedicine we won't be coming back to where we were. There's been a process that we have disrupted, and I think that this is the golden opportunity for us to use technologies like See What I See and project and being treating people where they are and moving them only if they're needing to be really processed in a hospital. The other opportunity is to take people out of the hospital earlier so that they can have this transition and better well-being afterwards, because by staying in the hospital too long, it's not good for elderly people, etc. So we can do the same by analyzing a person, how is he in post-traumatic, post-operation, and so that we can say, okay, now it's time for him to go out. So we're doing a lot of those things around with the University Hospital. The technologies are absolutely great. 5G is a journey. It's not like it's just 5G, but we have a lot of opportunities with 5G, which is the ultra reliable low latency, but also the enhanced broadband. So we can use incredible capacity to project that in detail of video that we could never do before. And telemedicine is now possible. Next slide, please. Thank you. Belfast Harbour. Nicola mentioned, with the picture with the remote maintenance. This is some very difficult areas in the port that are not very friendly for people to be inside, and you can't just dispatch a lot of teams. There are very specific people that have the right and the training to be in those areas. So we can do remote maintenance or remote craning operations from a central location without necessarily dispatching a lot of people. Also the video we're applying edge computing so that we can have great video CCTV for security purposes in the area. Also the connectivity provides with 4G, 5G and fiber incredible capacity. Belfast Harbour is one of the most is the biggest in size land in the UK for a port, and its vision is to become the best regional port in the world. So that space for businesses to go and make their business in the area of the port requires a really sophisticated environment, digital transformation, digital capability that provide a fabric to make this a really attractive place, especially now and how this Belfast can develop into a really tech city. Next slide, please. Forth Valley is an example. I mean, these are typical examples that we can apply in in the regions we're talking about in Wales and Southwest, right? The Forth Valley is an area in the East Scotland, Central East, that required, I would call it regeneration on the environment perspective, and that is not only in a small area, So like a port, which maybe is a hybrid network or a private network, but we're talking about a macro plane. That means a district, a very big area that you have sensors, so IoT, massive connectivity, using the 5G network as a carrier, and then enabling people to take decisions, doing insight management so that you can improve the quality of the environment in terms of water, especially, and so on, so that you can actually bring back people to really live that area in terms of leisure, but also creating new businesses, etc. So it is a super important factor for environment, linking, sensors, industries, and areas, so that you can actually create an environment for economical growth and sustainable growth. So sustainability is one of the huge challenges of our times, and we believe that technology can be used to connect that for making that really possible. Next slide, please. University of Warwick. Yeah, so there is a really specific opportunity in that area, is that there is the automotive industry, for example. So the automotive industry in the UK is a very strong industry, and it's not just the manufacturing is very important. And when we think about manufacturing, sometimes we think about these big enterprises that are potentially global, but actually manufacturing, I would like to just mention that it's also the small, medium-sized enterprises or medium corporates that require automation and digital skills. Now, overall, the UK, loads of customers around that. And I think that Warwick played a good role, because we could actually test some of these opportunities of use cases. One of them is the automotive, because it's the UK's innovation automotive center in Warwick. And we're testing, cars, and how do they behave in terms of vehicle-to-vehicle collaboration, in a real environment of a road, which is in Warwick University, with 5G, and seeing how a car can inform a car about an obstacle, for example, or if the car's crossing and there is a loss of maybe mobile site for a split second, does that change the behavior, and what do we need to do around the engineering of the car to enable that they're always connected in this future world of of more security, more safety for the cars. Other areas, of course, is the campus, so it can create an environment for students to do all their studies and tests in whatever area they are, and telemedicine as well. So there's different faculties and different things that we can do in a university, but it's actually a hybrid environment that connects the macro sites, using, of course, 4G, 5G, but also private networks. So it's a combination of things. And that's where, the strength of the BT as a partner is that because we have the macro presence and the local presence, we can use Spectrum in order to, connect these two environments. So, I mean, these are things that we can absolutely get, really inspired. We can apply them, and they're not just linked to this particular physical locations. Next slide, please. I think this is the last one. I will stay just a few seconds. Worcester, it's an area that is not far. We have teamed up with Bosch and a few other companies, of course, and Worcester 5G to create an incredible test bed for, outdoor, for private networks, Industry 4.0, together with DCMS. So that is great, because we have now autonomous driving vehicles that can carry things, and we can avoid collisions in the factory floor. I mean, the importance of factories and manufacturing, as we said, are such a big fabric in the UK, is that you can do now factories using information technology techniques via the strong presence of a fantastic, network, which can be indoor coverage using, the sub-6 spectrum, in the future millimeter wave, creating, ultra reliable, low latency, precision to the millisecond, and then wireless, so that you don't have to wire all these things, and you can change production lines in days, rather than, waiting for months and months and months before you can actually change production lines. So this is a wider range of use cases around, video surveillance, autonomous driving vehicles, mixed reality, and of course, detection, etc., etc. So that's where things come together between 5G, edge, IoT, security, and all these things are very important for security perspective, because as 5G becomes more, giving many more devices, more endpoints, cybersecurity, and I know Steve is on the call, is very important that they come together. This is it is a science that has to be embedded by design, So all these things are tested, and we're getting some really great results actually from these use cases. That's it. Thank you. I don't think I have any more slides. I thought I wanted to have 65, but I just had to stay with these 7. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Fotis, and don't go anywhere as well, because we've got
No.
another polling question for the audience
back to you, Nadine.
to consider. Thank you very much indeed. So the next polling question, and just to let you know, if you actually want to take part in the polls, if you've just joined us, then select vote, which appears under the chat box. So select vote, which appears under the chat box. I know some people have just joined the call as well. So the next polling question for you to consider is, do you agree with the suggestion that 5G has enormous business potential and goes hand in hand with digital transformation? And I think you know the drill now. You have 30 seconds to answer the question. And once more, you have 4 options to choose from. So strongly agree, disagree, or strongly disagree. And I think Fotis, of all the technologies that is or will be the most integral to digital transformation over the next few months or years, it has to be 5G. That's that key enabler. I know you said we're on a journey, and I think that was really brought to life by you, although obviously I don't want to influence your answers when you're actually doing the polling responses. That's just my humble opinion. And I don't know about you, Fotis, but obviously digital transformation, it was brilliant to see those case studies, the variety that you shared with us, and people can access those resources afterwards as well, because there's some really good detail within each one. But sometimes digital transformation can be very small wins, Fotis, can't it? I interviewed the association, the UK Manufacturing Association chief executive recently, and he said actually sometimes even small investments on sensors can create big wins when it comes to productivity. So it's not all about large scale digital transformation, because that can be quite scary for people at sometimes, knowing where to start. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I'm definitely I completely agree. I mean, the fabric of the UK is not necessarily the huge enterprises, but it's definitely the medium enterprises, and I think repeatability and starting small actually is important, and finding those use cases that are I would call it priority. So I think the best way to start is saying, what is a really important problem that I'm facing, and I want to be more productive, more differentiated, and how can technology help me? And these are things that we could sort of like say, okay, that's an opportunity for partnering and trying to start that digital transformation journey. By is it automation? Is it being closer to the customer, using the cloud? I mean, there's a lot of technologies today that are coming together at the same time, which is fabulous, because 30 years ago we did have, and 50 years ago we had AI. It existed, it's technology, but now we have connectivity that provides billions and billions of CDRs, information, and therefore the combination of filtering that information to provide insights is first. This is the period that we can do that. So the combination of these technologies are not easy. There's a lot of complexity, and I think that by starting small and investing small and just having a great vision of what is the bigger element that we're trying to achieve, and co-creating would be absolutely the best way, and not sort of trying to make the whole thing happen at the same time.
Indeed, wise words, Fotis. Fotis, we've got the results in. So the question was, do you agree with the suggestion 5G has enormous business potential and goes hand in hand with digital transformation? 56% strongly agree. Come in second, we had 39%. We had 4% disagreeing. So not everybody in the agree and strongly agree camp, and 0% strongly disagree. So just your thoughts on that. I mean, that's really sort of 96% are strongly agree and agree.
Yeah, I mean, it's evident that the UK is we should not underestimate the capacity of this country and the usage of technology. It's part of, it's in the service industries, it's in the banking, it's in the public sector. I'm just amazed by the amount of interest, by seeing tens and tens of customers. I wouldn't say 100, but not very far. But so much drive, so much not only exploration but determination, to disrupt and to be leadership. And to Nicola's point, leadership, culture, inclusion. This is starting to show not only as a company or as an organization, but to cross-fertilize between companies. We can't solve all the problems by one company or one tech company. I think the collaboration is very much key, and I think the UK will absolutely setting the standards in that.
So it's co-opetition is one of the words I used to use, and
Yeah.
collaboration. So just stay with us. Obviously, we've got the panel discussion coming up. Thank you so much for your
Thank
thoughts.
you.
It's been great to have you here. So do remember to keep your questions and comments coming in throughout. It'd be great to hear your thoughts of you. So we're moving on now. I'd like to say that Steve Benton is waiting. He's been very patient, and I can't wait to get his thoughts as well as to his understanding when it comes to embracing digital change without compromising your reputation. And as Deputy Chief Information Security Officer, Steve leads the team responsible for the cyber and physical security intelligence across BT. And we're going to put his 20 years of experience to good use now. And I know he's passionate about pushing the boundaries of proactive and also predictive security using BT's unique view of global networks alongside big data technologies. And as we continue to shift towards more agile ways of working, as Nicola mentioned earlier, we're presented with new security threats, aren't we? And those threats have certainly been targeted to world events this year. So let's find out from Steve about how you can embrace digital change without compromising your reputation. Steve, lovely to have you here with us at DT20. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. And thanks very much for having me. I'm going to give you a couple of mantras to bear in mind as we sort of face into this. The first one actually comes from 500 BC, from Sun Tzu's Art of War. And he says, if you know neither your enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. I'm going to talk a little bit about both of those as we explore what sort of happened to us over this whole period of pandemic, and the good things and the challenging things that we've faced into and will now face into as we move forward. So we get the first slide up, please. Okay, so moving on to the next slide then. I'm going to reflect back on what happened since about March of this year. We had to very rapidly, as we all did, move into a lockdown situation. And for me, it wasn't just arranging for the UK, it was right across the globe in terms of our operations. And in some of those countries, the lockdown call was basically within 24 hours, within 48 hours, everybody is out of the office and must be working from home. So we had an explosion in virtual access, remote access that we needed to enable across the globe. We helped many of our customers to do exactly the same thing and scale that up in a matter of days. Recognizing as well that people were grabbing their equipment, their desktops or their laptops they used to work, and taking those into a home environment where they would be connected directly to the internet. So from a security standpoint, we were moving devices that had been on our safe corporate network onto a broadband connection in a home environment. We very much took a deliberate stance with our people that we would give them the equipment they needed, rather than ask them to rely on a home computer in order to continue working. And we felt that was important because there were a lot of stresses and strains on families, to support both home working, home study, schooling, and other things, and social connectivity. And we didn't really want, work getting in the way of people to remain connected in that way. So we took a very conscious decision to just take the equipment and put it into the home environment. What we did do then was to put additional endpoint protection on those devices. But we also did a whole piece around the human firewall. I'm going to talk a bit more about that. And again, what that's doing is it's recognizing that the threats, and therefore what we call the attack surface, how an attacker can actually get into your organization, shifted, and what they would be playing on in order for that to happen. So helping people to be aware of that situation and be able to take calm, conscious decisions, because they were more exposed. So when we think about trying to stay in that lockdown situation, we had to adopt new ways of working, but we had to deal with the isolation. So when you're in the work environment and something strange happens on your machine, or an unexpected email comes in, or a message, whatever, at least you've got somebody to your left or to your right to sort of say, did you get this? What do you think of this? You've got someone to sort of work it through with. But now you're in a home environment, it's very much down to you to make a decision. And so that dealing with the isolation, we helped a lot with our people to think about what that meant for them. And I'll talk a little bit more as I talk about the sort of attacks that we did see. We also had to deal with innovation. So again, people wanted to innovate, to create collaboration spaces. And so we know there was an absolute explosion in people adopting Zoom because they'd seen the politicians doing it. So they thought, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll just install Zoom. Now, of course, we have collaboration solutions. I'm sure you do too for your people, but trying to help people not to just innovate off their own bat, but to get in touch with the IT teams and say, look, I'm facing into this problem. I'm not sure how to do this. Do we have a means of doing this? So getting people to check in with us first, because again, for all the plans that we made, we didn't necessarily think about every kind of work situation that somebody might come up with at home and find they didn't have an easy way to do it. And we needed to understand what those were so we could move quickly to ensure people were always supported and they're always checking back with us. And so that means in terms of our monitoring and response, we had to be sure that we could support our people out there in the home environments and they didn't feel like they were on their own, that they're not isolated, that security is always there. We have your back and we work at this together. And then, of course, what I did recognize, and back in August and back in sort of the early summertime, I was saying the watchword for me is going to be elasticity, because I felt that, we were in this for the long term. We talk about sprints, we talk about marathons. I think, COVID-19 is an ultra marathon, and goodness knows when the ultra is going to end for us. So there's some element of returning to the office, but there's also people that will continue to work from home. But those people that are currently working from home, they won't necessarily be able to sort of stay like that. It's not static. There are times when you've just had it with working from home and you just need to come into the office for a while just to get your sort of sanity back. And those that have been in the office can maybe flex and go back into the home working environment so we can manage our capacity in terms of our safe COVID spaces, but also look after the well-being of our people and recognize that a choice to work from home isn't like 100%. You may need to flex, and we need to work with that. What we did find beneficially was it absolutely accelerated the adoption of collaboration. So we were about to launch Teams across BT just as the lockdown sort of kicked in. And so the adoption into Teams and that collaboration and use of chats and so on absolutely exploded for us. And again, we were able to then, with Nicola Millard, put together the ways of working at home and collaborating and putting security into those methods as well. But it's also forced us to look at future architectures. So we've started to question, what is the value of our corporate network really for our office workers, because they're quite able now to work remotely, living on the internet. And wouldn't that actually be a better way of securing our offices, in that if you got into our office, the best thing you're going to get is an internet connection rather than some sort of connectivity into our deep corporate networks where our systems and servers lie. So it's helped us actually to reassess the pace of acceleration in our own digital transformation as well. But the key learning for us is when we needed to, we did far more than we expected we could have done. We exceeded our expectations by many factors. And is this now the new expectation for IT and networks and security, and that race to get us into a home working environment? And I think it's maybe somewhere between the two, because what we needed to do was very quickly reassess the security situation that we were in and recognize that we were in this for a longer period of time. And so we needed to sort of reassess that position. So just thinking about the sort of attacks we saw, if we move on to the next slide. Well, funnily enough, there was a lot of misinformation flying around, playing on the emotions that we all had around this new pandemic and what it meant. And there was a lot of fake news actually going around about 5G, Fotis, and you'll remember this, that that somehow 5G was related to the COVID spread and the outbreak and so on. And we started to get actual arsons and sabotage attacks on our 5G masts, on our mobile masts. and indeed masks, that were actually serving the needs of NHS hospitals and the staff there. And we also had our own engineers, being accosted on the street and sort of hostility towards them. So we had to work very carefully across industry and with law enforcement in order to sort of quell that down, get the good information out there, get the rubbish stories taken off the internet. And indeed, we had to have some arrests and convictions as well, for people that were damaging the 5G and the mobile infrastructure that we were so dependent upon as a nation in terms of connectivity. I mean, we absolutely needed it. And this was the wrong time to have people out there trying to disrupt it. We immediately saw the bad guys shifting towards the emotions and the themes around COVID. Because ultimately, when you're thinking about your enemy, what they're wanting to do is to get you to act the wrong way, to click on a link, to open an attachment, to give away information that you shouldn't be giving away. So we saw 39 new malware families within about weeks of the lockdown hitting all around the coronavirus, playing on our emotions around wanting to be part of the solution to the pandemic, wanting to create the networks around tracking. And we also found that the bad guys were watching what the government were doing and what local authorities were doing and what organizations were doing in terms of contacting us during the pandemic. And they were intervening very quickly into that in order to create the fake scam emails in order to fool people. So we saw that sort of thematically continue to unravel and change around the globe. Literally, you could follow the spread of the pandemic, and you could see the bad guys with their malware following in terms of what it meant emotionally for everyone in those countries, but also what the government were doing in terms of their advice. So phishing around track and trace and test kits and fines and fake charities and all of that sort of stuff. They also started attacking then the ability to communicate. So there was a lot of push to try and get into the vulnerabilities potentially on virtual access and remote access on VPNs. And we also saw then the extortion coming into play. So ransomware came with extortion capabilities, as it always does, but was actually stealing data at the same time. But we also saw a rise in denial of service attacks. And typically what we were seeing was a demonstration of capability followed by an extortion demand to say, if you don't pay, we're going to take your digital channels down. We're going to disrupt your ability for your people to work from home or for you to engage with your customers or your supply chains and so on. So we were very much on the front foot in helping the UK to stay safe and secure, helping our customers to stay safe and secure around the globe. And we deployed various aspects in terms of our intelligence gathering and understanding what was shifting in terms of the tools and technologies and the processes that the bad guys are using. So that's all about knowing your enemy. You then have to think back about knowing yourself as an organization, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So one of our missions in the UK is to make the UK the safest place to be online in the world. So we work very closely with the National Cybersecurity Centre and their Industry 100 partnership. We work with other partners on intelligence across the UK, Europol and the organizations there across Europe, as well as across the pond with the US. So we saw a lot of scams, we saw a lot of attacks on VPN. We don't shout a lot often about our security, but there is a lot of security built into what we do in broadband and 5G, as Fotis was saying, by Secure by Design. And if you're interested, do go and follow that link to find out more. It's about 100 quid's worth of security that you get for nothing just by being a BT customer that you don't get with any organizations. But that's because we believe being safe and secure online is so important. But on the next slide, I sort of come around to the last piece, which is about knowing yourself. And for us, the important thing for us were our people, and our people feeling that they were safe and secure. And a key part of that then is being aware. And we recognize as well that for everybody now going at home, working from home, schooling from home, connecting to loved ones that they can't now visit because travel is locked down, and the social networks and so on. The same things that we would instill and make our people aware of in being safe and secure at work were essentially the new life skills you needed in the home environment. And so we made it really, really simple for everyone to understand and to have a 3-word mantra of stop, think, and protect. The bad guys are wanting you to go into your irrational, fast thinking, the sort of reactive thinking you do, not thinking stuff through and reacting to the emotion and the hook that they've put into their scam that they've carefully crafted and launched at you. And so they want you basically just to act immediately without thinking. But if you pause for a moment, I think we all know this, if you give yourself about 30 seconds to breathe, your brain, logical brain, will kick into gear and help you to think things through. And if it doesn't look right, if it feels wrong, if it sounds wrong, then it probably is wrong. But then do something about it. You report it into your security team, to your IT team. Don't ignore it. But get the advice. And the other thing as well, just going back to what Nicola's point was saying about the longer work days, we were worried about fatigue, and we all know when we're tired, we make mistakes. So again, just having that kind of 3 words that you latch on to, stop, think, and protect, we thought was really, really important for everyone, but also to instill those skills and say, and these are how you can use this in the homeschool environment. This is how you can use these techniques to ensure that, as everyone's in the household and going online and going on the entertainment, how you can stay safe and secure, how you can stop being sort of approached across social media. We also recognized as well that there was a lot of emotion around job security, and LinkedIn became the new phishing playground, especially for countries that were looking to get credentials. So a lot of nation state activity as well, and also from organizations and nation states that need to engage in criminality in order to create funding for themselves. So countries like North Korea. And they were using the dream job advertisement on LinkedIn in order to entice people in to go on to downloading, the job application, but having to enable macros in order for it to reveal the salary that they're going to be offering you, that dream job, or some data protection thing you need to click on and acknowledge. Again, just fooling you into, this is fine, this is all part of recruitment, I can click on this, lulling you into that false sense of security. And this is ongoing, and we're about to get into Black Friday and Cyber Monday and busy trading periods right up until Christmas. The fraudsters, the scammers are all there. So you've got to step back and assess how you're set up now for this period, how you're interacting with your customers and supply chains. How could those be scammed or frauded? Get yourselves into the mindsets of what's the value at the end of this transaction that a fraudster would want to get their hands on? Is it a high value item? Is it trying to get credentials so they can get inside my business processes? Are they trying to get credentials to sort of pose as me and defraud my customers? Take a step back, take an exercise out with your teams to think about what that would look like. How would you detect it, and how would you protect it? So stop, think, protect. And if you know neither your enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. Back to you, Nadine.
Thank you very much, Steve. Yeah, that's really wise words, actually. And also those trusted platforms, whether it's LinkedIn or whatever it is, you have to sort of do a double take sometimes, don't you? If it sounds too good to be true, it possibly is. But even that mantra isn't good enough. So I think that's really wise words, Steve. Well, we've got the next poll question for you based around Steve's session. And in the event of more hybrid working patterns, how likely are you to increase the levels of cyber security? So your 30 seconds is on the clock already. And once more, there are 4 options to choose from. I think you know the drill: very likely, likely, unlikely, or very unlikely. So in the event of more hybrid working patterns, how likely are you to increase the levels of cyber security? And just listening to Steve then, it's not only important to keep pace or ahead of the rapidly evolving global cyber threats, as we heard him talk about, but for all of us to switch on that human firewall. I think they were really, really important words, and we've got a busy training period, as you said, Steve, coming up. So as we await those polling questions, just let you know, there's just had a note come in. I know quite a few of you are sending in questions and comments throughout. Thank you very much. Ready for our panel discussion. Just to sort of tackle a few questions that have come in together, there's quite a few questions raised around connectivity issues, 4G and 3G. And the response that I've been asked to give you is one of the key drivers behind our recent restructure becoming truly regional is to champion a vision of driving significantly better access technologies into challenging and rural locations. And I know Sam and her team will be in touch to discuss our opportunities. So just on that note, if you don't hear your question being read out during the panel discussion, then the team, the events team, and Sam and her team will be answering those questions directly to you. So those questions are very valid, so do keep them coming in. They won't be left there sitting doing nothing. They will be answered, but hopefully that's answered that particular question. Okay, the polling results are in, Steve. In the event of more hybrid working patterns, how likely are you to increase the levels of cyber security? And again, all very in positive territory, very likely 46%, likely 42%, unlikely 11%. So we've got what is it, 89% in that positive territory, but 11% unlikely. So I don't know if you want to comment on those results, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, my advice to the 11% who are saying unlikely is, okay, you're talking about investment, but actually your attitudes towards security and what I call the hygiene levels. So about ensuring that you maintain the patching up to date, you don't let things go out of support, and you just sort of stay diligent and on top of what you've got. Right, even if you're in a situation where, you know what, we just can't afford to go any further right now with cybersecurity, just keep what you've got up to date, because the bad guys are scanning for opportunities all of the time, and as soon as they find a gap in your defenses or an unpatched system or something that's opened an interface up into the internet, that's where they will go in, apart from the usual stuff of trying to attack your human beings. So human firewall, hygiene.
Thank you very much, Steve. And again, we look forward to having you with us later on during the panel discussion. Do appreciate your thoughts then. And I think more than ever, cybersecurity needs to become a focus for all of us, and our businesses and companies need to look at security not simply as a defence exercise, but maybe as a means of innovating digitally and ultimately then being able to grow. So it'll be interesting to see if the 11% that said disagree, whether they've shifted their thoughts at all. So yeah, keep your comments posted in. Questions and comments via the chat facility to have your say. Now, the final main presentation before we have the panel discussion will focus on BT's green tech innovation platform to reach net zero. Now, net zero in a nutshell is all about achieving a balance between the amount of greenhouse gas emissions produced and the amount removed from the atmosphere. And who better to deliver this presentation than Ian Caveney? Now, Ian leads BT's strategy for developing breakthrough technology that can help fight against the climate crisis and also provide support to vulnerable people, as well as how AI, so artificial intelligence and connected devices, can support health and well-being. So let's find out how technology can help organisations meet their green and sustainability goals to reach net zero by 2050. Ian, I know you've been waiting very patiently. I hope I've got your surname correct. Welcome to DT20. We can't hear you, Ian.
Oh, there we go. Can you hear me now?
I'll introduce you again. Ian Caveney.
Hello, everyone. And Nadine, you did get the pronunciation right, so top marks for that. And good morning, everyone. It's really great to be here with you all. Yeah, so I lead on what's called Tech for Good at BT. I'm actually part of BT's sustainability team. And what this means in practice is that I'm basically working with the different commercial parts of BT to embed tech that, as Nadine said, either has a positive social impact or an environmental impact, like the Green Tech Innovation Platform, which I'll touch on shortly. But before I get onto the detail of that, I want to spend a bit of time just taking you through our climate strategy. Obviously, climate is a massive important thing for every organisation in the UK and across the world. And it's important to stress that our climate strategy has the full support and buy-in of the chairman and CEO. And this top-of-house support really does create the right conditions to drive change and action across the entire organisation. And where this all starts with is with our purpose, which is Reconnect for Good, which Fotis highlighted earlier. And these four words really reflect the role that BT can play as a force for good in society. And kind of at the core of Connecting for Good is that we recognise that tech is changing and shaping all of our lives. It's not just the COVID crisis that's doing it, it's just tech is there to change all our lives. And what is great though, as we've seen with COVID, it can also help support solve shared challenges, and that's where the climate crisis can also play a role. But I think also, again, a theme that you've probably heard throughout this presentation today is a fact around it's all about collaboration too. We can't do this on our own, so we need to be working with the right customers and suppliers in order to drive those impacts. So if we go to the next slide. So here I'm going to focus on the 5 factors that are driving our climate strategy. And again, hopefully this will chime with a lot of the organisations on the call today in terms of what they're looking to do. And the first thing is probably potentially BT's best kept secret. And that's actually that BT has actually been leading on climate change for over 28 years. In 1992, we were one of the first companies in the world to set a carbon reduction target. And in 2008, again, we were one of the first companies to adopt a science-based target as well. And as part of that transition to a low carbon business model, we've pledged also to be a net zero carbon business by 2045. And we've also set our targets in line with the aim of the COP26 Paris Agreement, linking targets to global warming of 1.5 degrees by 2030. So this is critical, and this is all set within the overall roadmap of BT as an organisation. And from this leadership position, though, we could move on to point 2, which is how we can lead the public debate and inspire others. Now, for example, we are one of the largest consumers of electricity in the UK, and over the years we've been transitioned to renewable energy. And in fact, we're 100% renewable in the UK, and in November, actually earlier this month, we announced that we've actually achieved the goal of actually becoming 100% renewable across the world. So this is great in the sense of we've been able to drive the market and sort of help drive the renewable energy transition. But also, just to be clear as well, that you know, this isn't just good for the planet, it's good for BT overall as well. We've saved over £343 million for our energy efficiency programmes, and it's also helped us reduce our own carbon emissions intensity by 42% since 2016-2017. So massive impact there. Now, moving on to point 3, it's really the crux of the green tip and how we help our customers reduce their own footprint. And we've talked a lot about today how the fixed and mobile networks we can provide can be that enabler to help that transition. And this is a huge opportunity. So I'm going to give you some interesting facts here. So for example, last year, we helped our customers save 13 million tonnes of carbon through our cloud computing and our video teleconferencing solutions. Now that's the equivalent of the energy it takes to provide power to 3 UK million homes. And as we've seen with COVID, actually, that has only risen. So also alongside being a net zero carbon emissions business, we're also supporting a more circular economy. We have a plastics policy where we set a target that in 2025, 100% of the single-use plastic packaging we produce and send to customers can be reused, recycled or composted. And we've already removed 42 tonnes of plastics from our products and services already in the last year. And also with electronic waste, now one of the world's fastest growing waste streams, we need to secure the precious materials for the future. And this is an area we also increasingly focus on. So as we're continually upgrading to full fibre networks, we're really working hard to ensure that the valuable materials from our legacy networks is being captured and used effectively. And so we're working really with partners here to ensure that we are absolutely making the most out of that. And then finally, what we do is bring everything together by reporting transparently on our goals and our progress. So if you ever want to find out more about our methodologies and what we've been achieving, then actually you can check out our digital impact and sustainability report, which has got all the details and a lot more examples of what we're doing in these spaces. So great. So next slide, please. So now I've set the scene on our sort of wider climate clarity. It's time to delve into the green tip in more detail. Now, one of the main reasons behind the launch of the Green Tip by Philip Jansen in June of this year was the fact that we believe that technology and sustainability are becoming completely interlinked. We've already heard today lots of examples of how 5G and IoT can enable change, and I think that is super true in relation to fighting the climate crisis. However, what is interesting is we've got to ensure and work out ways how we can embed this type of open innovation in the business. Myself being the sustainability team, I'm not going to be launching propositions. I need to be working in the core of business to drive this change. And the other part here as well is that we need to bring in outside thinking and expertise. We're realistic in the sense that we don't have all the answers or all the expertise required. And that's why we've actually been running the Green Tech platform with a company called Plug and Play, who are our new international scouting and innovation partner. They're helping us uncover SME scale-ups from across the world and who are developing new and differentiated ways of using technology. The idea is that we identify specific companies that we can partner with to develop joint propositions and then support that transition to net zero, as well as delivering broader returns on investments for customers. So again, earlier today, Fotis mentioned about this focus point, and I couldn't agree more, which is, a major change had to come in, but is we had to know where can we focus to make a real difference. We can't do everything for everyone. And therefore, we had to make sure as well it's critically aligned with what's happening in the business. So as a result, I worked with enterprise, strategy, product and technology teams to identify not only strong business opportunities, but also areas which have high potential for carbon abatement, and using analysis supported by the Carbon Trust here as well. And through the research, we quickly identified things we talked about today. IoT, 5G are going to be huge enablers of carbon abatement and also growth engines for our business, as well as great opportunities for our customers. So the next thing was, well, actually, we're talking about customers. Well, who are we going to serve? Who are we going to focus this green tip on in the first instance? So with this work, again, we decided to align our activities to the public sector and customers, which are local councils or providers of other public services like the NHS. So like BT, actually, a lot of these organisations have very ambitious climate targets in place, which is great. Number two, they're also incredibly forward-thinking and open to working in collaboration. And interesting, whilst you can argue this sector can often be cash-strapped, it can make products and services work here. We can potentially make them work in any types of different environments. So then building on the technology and customer framework we identified there, and also understanding the existing work that teams like Fotis' team are also doing, we identified the 3 key areas of opportunity highlighted here on the slide. So the first one, under smart streets, this theme, we're exploring how tech platforms and solutions can deliver actionable insights that help local authorities to take action on air quality or CO2 levels. Now, we're looking to do this as to how we can integrate sensors into our next generation of street hub units that will supersede the InLink units. Hopefully you can see what an InLink unit looks like in the slide there. And this will also go in the future to replace further parts of our existing payphone infrastructure as well. So we've got an ability to spread these units across the UK. Within smart buildings, this is kind of more of a classic IoT play. Our starting point was to find partners who would improve water and energy management in relation to social housing or other customer buildings, plus giving them the ability to deliver preventative maintenance. And then finally, under remote diagnostics, we're exploring ways 5Gs and our conversion networks can support remote consultations, triage, and even repairs. And a lot of this is along similar lines to some of the work that Fotis outlined to the University of Hospitals Birmingham work. Now, what's really important with these different themes is that I have a dedicated business owner I'm working with who's driving the process towards proof of concepts and fully fledged propositions. They've been ever present in the process whereby we've been going through scouting, and we've just come to the end of that scouting stage. And for each theme, we've basically gone through a list of at least 30 companies to now a chosen partner. Now, I would love to be announcing who those partners are today, but we're still in the process of agreeing our propositions, how the business models will look. But what I can do is give you a quick early plug for another BT event, actually, is the fact that we'll be publishing and announcing these companies at an event at the end of January. So again, look out for the BT Twitter and social pages for more information on that. But I think this is where actually the hard work is really going to start, because developing custom proof of concepts, proving how this technology and solutions are going to work is really critical, and really nailing down those business cases and user cases is what's going to be really important. And what is really interesting here is that we are also looking not just at the climate impact, but on those broader return on investments. But when it comes to that climate impact, we're going to be working with the Carbon Trust to baseline our customers' environmental data and to truly measure that impact, so we can be clear as to what each specific solution has been delivering. And what my hope is overall is that generally you'll see this hope, and I think happening across a lot of products and services, actually, not only will we start to hear like broad business benefits encapsulated in a product or service, the environmental benefits will also start to come to the fore in terms of how they can help people reduce their emissions. And what we will obviously do then is, based on these POCs, is then look at how we can create and improve those propositions. And ideally, we're looking to be actually launching specific products and services by the end of 2021 as part of this whole process and in the sales channel. So we're on a bit of a journey here, but I think it is important that we go through the right steps to do that. And what's also useful here is that the partners we're going to be working with, it's really about helping them to learn from BT as well. We'll be learning from them, no doubt, as well, in terms of what they can tell, but we're also able to deliver BT expertise and support to them and helping them to scale and grow their markets. But, you know, I'm really upbeat about what the difference the green tip can make. And really, it's kind of exciting to see that through this innovation approach, we can actually create a bit of a blueprint for the rest of the business to use and follow. Or actually, again, it's something that I'd recommend that any business should be thinking about how they can utilize technology as part of their climate transition. So really looking forward to updating people as we go through the process of the green tip. And now I'll be handing back to Nadine, who is going to take us back to the next part of the event.
Thank you very much, Ian, and great to hear there's a lot happening in your area, lots of innovation coming our way, so watch this space. I don't know about you, but I've got this sort of sense that people used to find green tech investing or green energy quite a burden, whereas now it's shifted really. It's an exciting opportunity to invest in something really, really positive. So I'm definitely seeing the dial changing that way. And actually, we'd like to get your thoughts again. We've got another polling question for you to answer. So you know the drill, it's 30 seconds to respond to the following. So as we come out of COVID-19, how likely are you to invest in tech that supports climate action and provides a clear business return on investment? 4 options again: very likely, likely, unlikely, or very unlikely. And I think just listening to Ian's presentation, it's striking that green technology really plays an important role in that bid to reach net zero, which seems like a long way in the future, sort of 30 years and counting. But actually, it's going to require a real collective effort amongst us all to reach that net zero carbon emissions by 2050. And next year in Glasgow, obviously, that's going to be a really exciting COP where companies and businesses can get together. And the fact that it's in the UK will really focus, I think, the efforts around it. So I applaud you, Ian, for everything that you're doing around that at the moment. And then obviously, while we wait for the polling results, it'd be interesting to see what the audience think about this topic, whether it's a focus for their mind as well. So the question we've been asking is, as we come out of COVID-19, how likely are you to invest in tech that supports climate action and provides a clear business return on investment? I wonder what the results are going to be. And just in a moment as well, I'm very excited that we're going to be bringing in Tim Mullen. So Tim, that's a cue for you in just a moment to tell us about your experience when it comes to digital transformation. So looking forward to that. And obviously keep your questions coming in as well. So here we go, we've got the results. So Ian, your thoughts. How likely are you to invest in tech that supports climate action and provides a clear business ROI? Very likely 68%, likely 21%, unlikely 10%, very unlikely 0%. So 90% in positive territory there. So talk us through those results, Ian. Are they as you expected?
They're as I hoped, actually, and probably put me more positive than I expected. I think, not everyone has quite realised the potential of the role technology can play in addressing climate crisis. So I think the fact that over 60% actively thinking about it is fantastic, and I think it shows that you can look at it in many different ways. But I think the other thing is that it doesn't just mean it's going to be helping climate action. It's going to be helping your business or your organisation potentially be more efficient, even improve well-being of customers or even your employees. So I think there's always more than one benefit in relation to the type of tech we're looking at. So yeah, I'm super upbeat about the fact a lot of people feel the same.
Well, Ian, I'm glad that you're happy. So thank you very much for that. We'll be joining us as well for the panel discussion in just a moment. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I'm delighted to say that we have Tim Mullen joining us on the programme to get the perspective of an organisation based in the Southwest. Tim is the IT Transformation Programme Lead at Gloucestershire Hospitals NHS Foundation Trust. Welcome, Tim. I understand that your role is at one of the largest hospital trusts in the country. So Tim, if you could start by telling us all how your NHS Foundation Trust has embraced digital transformation and what has been the impact?
Yeah, thank you, Nadine. So the Hospitals Trust that I work for serves the people of Gloucestershire from 2 big district hospitals. There's Gloucestershire Royal and Cheltenham General, and between them we serve the kind of general hospital requirements for the county of Gloucestershire. Our digital transformation journey began back in the end of 2018 when we we finally employed an exec chief digital information officer. And for the first time, this trust had board level representation from IT. And I think because we hadn't had that level of representation for so many years, we were something of a laggard when it came to digital transformation. So at the end of 2018, we didn't have an electronic patient record. So that means all these sort of things that we kind of take for granted now, and I think the public assume that we have. So electronic records for patient notes, bed notes, things like ordering bloods and other tests, all that stuff was done on paper here at Gloucester Royal and Cheltenham General at the back end of 2018. And since then, we've been on a really kind of breakneck journey towards digital transformation. The first thing that we did, and the bit that I was in charge of, because actually I don't really know a lot about these patient-facing systems, but the reason I was invited on board, and the really exciting bit for me, was leading the infrastructure transformation. So we looked at the network, and we looked at the compute platform that we have here, and we found a lot of, well, I think what we found really was essentially a very, very old installation. The hospitals had received a lot of attention about the turn of the century, but really since then, the focus on IT had been minimal. And it was seen as the sort of area where you could chop bits off and deliver cost improvements. And so actually the infrastructure was in quite a parlous state when I came into post. We had lots of single points of failure in the network. We were running old kit, and we were running old operating systems on top of that kit. And so the first thing we set out to do was to change the campus lands at GRH and CGH. And one of the interesting things about our geography is that we have these two general hospitals. So what that allowed us to do was architect a compute platform that kind of utilized that geographic separation in terms of delivering resilience and high availability. So we built a VMware compute platform at each hospital, and then we used the software-defined networking capabilities over a low latency BT link to deliver site resiliency +1. So we finally got N+1 on our compute platform, and we've got the same level of resilience on our campus LANs. And we've recently finally kind of finished our big infrastructure program to move to HSCN, something that wasn't even started or even thought of back at the end of 2018. So I'm glad that we've been able to do that, again, with BT's help, actually, and really deliver a kind of basically just a stable platform from which to deliver clinical services that we can have confidence in. Our CDIO, Mark Hutchinson, talks about pouring concrete. He's always talking in these metaphorical terms, and I think the way he sees it is as some necessary but unglamorous work on which to deliver electronic patient records. So that's the basis of what I've been doing, what interests me over the past 2 years. You know, it's really interesting that you talked about how COVID has accelerated digital transformation, and that's precisely what we see here. You know, we've had a lot of challenges over the years from areas like clinical governance and so on around the use of digital technologies to deliver care. That's, you know, they're perfectly reasonable challenges that we've received over the years, but it has stopped us delivering digital transformation in some areas, like patient consultations, for example, are the classic one. We always worry in the NHS, well, where's all that data that's exchanged during these conversations on platforms like Zoom and Microsoft Teams, where does that all go? Where's it going to be stored? Do we have data at rest issues? Is there going to be data stored, you know, in United States or perhaps even in other countries? And so while Microsoft has done a lot with their UK data centers to help us obviate the need to find out exactly where all the data is at any particular time, I think there was still a reluctance within the clinical user group to adopt these technologies. Now, COVID kind of made it necessary for us to start using these technologies. And I'm kind of really encouraged that okay, COVID's not the best thing in the world, but it has enabled us to use platforms like the video chat platform we're talking on right now to start doing some clinical engagements, and you know, that provides so many efficiencies and allows us, of course, during COVID to actually deliver some aspects of clinical care, you know, remotely and safely. And I think we've shown that we can do that. Similarly, the other big area of digital transformation is, of course, all the support staff like me. There are thousands of us in the hospital, and during lockdown 1, all our support staff who are used to coming into the office suddenly weren't able to do so. And, you know, typically before COVID, we were probably delivering remote access on any given day to, I don't know, maybe 100 people tops, maybe 50 people, maybe 50 concurrencies at the same time. During COVID, that has absolutely skyrocketed. And right now, if I were to look on our dashboard, we would probably be delivering about 600 to 700 remote VDI sessions, and a further 400 to 500 layer 3 VPN sessions for our users. And they're doing things like, well, all sorts of things. They're taking bookings, they're answering service desk calls, they are looking at radiology images, and you know, you name it, we're doing it. Anything that isn't actually hands-on care, we're now doing it over the internet. And okay, that comes with a lot of challenges, and I'm not pretending that we've got everything right. In fact, we've got a lot wrong, but it has been encouraging to live through this kind of this emergency, and finally IT is allowed to shine. So that's my experience of digital transformation.
Wow, it sounds like you've had the busiest year or 2 years, and thank you for spending
crazy,
yeah, sort of supercharged away. I mean, one of the things when I was looking at the healthcare sector for my series on IoT was I posed that question: is there a reluctance for people to adopt this digital transformation? And actually, what I hadn't thought through at the time was that medical teams are often the most innovative, brilliant, brightest people, are always looking for new ideas anyway. But it's good to hear about the support staff who've obviously come at it from a different angle, are back on board, because obviously you need all the bits of the jigsaw puzzle to be together. So, I mean, you've talked through some of your challenges there, but I think it'd be quite interesting to find out what opportunities do you see from digital transformation in the immediate future. So what are the plans coming up over the next few months in carrying on that super fast journey that you're on?
Okay, so with the clinical platform, we've got quite a long way to go, because we started from, well, not zero, but we were really only doing basic administration duties digitally, and the whole delivery of care was on paper until recently. So we've recently done order comms, which is the means by which medics and clinicians order results online or through the electronic patient system. That's something that a lot of hospitals, or most hospitals, would have in place. It's in your interest as a patient to have that sort of thing, because doing so decreases the amount of error in the system. So, you know, if I'm a typical doctor, then my handwriting is so atrocious that it's completely indecipherable to somebody working down in the pathology lab. So you may well get back a test that you didn't ask for, or tests maybe mixed up. You know, that margin of error is decreased by doing online order comms. Similarly, we'll be introducing electronic prescribing later this year. So that's another big step forward, another kind of risky area that we can help to eliminate some of those errors through the use of digital technologies.
Yeah.
One of the areas that I'm interested in are, as you were talking about, Nadine, IoT. So I'd like us to fill in the gaps on our Wi-Fi system so that we can do things like track porters, track trolleys, track babies, find out where all our mobile carts are being hidden in cupboards, that we're constantly providing new computers on carts to clinicians. So it'd be great to be able to see where those assets are in the hospital. And I think there are countless ways that we could leverage that sort of the new Bluetooth BLE technology. I'm really excited about that. So that's one area that I'm really thinking about at the moment.
Oh, indeed. Sounds like you've got a lot on your plate. Thank you, Tim, for that. It's been really, really useful for everybody to hear. So let's get some questions now from the audience. And first one is for Nicola. It's from Alison Nicholson. Is it digital that's changed as a consequence of COVID-19 or practice?
Well, oh gosh, we're getting into interesting psychology here. I have the 3 U's model of a digital adoption. So the first is it useful to me? And COVID has changed that context of usefulness in that I want my technologies to help me to work productively. So, you know, it's passed the useful test. Is it usable is the second one. So, you know, hopefully, I mean, I know both Zoom and Teams and a lot of the collaboration tools have been really working on that usability piece to make things easy, to make sure you don't have to read a manual or go on a training course to do things. And then critically, particularly for collaboration tools, it's all about who else is using it. So it is around that. In terms of COVID stimulating that, there's suddenly a massive audience in terms of who you collaborate with on a lot of these platforms. Because frankly, if you have a platform where, you know, a social network of one would be a terrible social network. It's all about the value of who else is on it and who else is using it. So I would say COVID's been a stimulus to that digital adoption, but the 3 U's, I always say, apply that test to technology adoption and see what answer you come out with. And that will then tell you whether that technology is likely to be adopted or not, regardless of whether there's a pandemic on.
Great, thank you, Nicola. Obviously conscious of time. Fotis, we've got a question for you from Adam Munger. It would be great to get a view from Fotis if 5G and beyond could eventually replace traditional fixed WAN networks.
Yeah, I think it's all these things are complementary, Adam. You know, the fixed infrastructure is super important. It's a fabric. I mean, it's the fiber, it's the big broadband capability that connects different locations with SD-WAN, etc., and gives us very much flexibility. So the fixed is a very, very important fabric. All these things are collaborative. We need all. And 4G is evolving into 5G. The spectrum portfolios of the mid-range spectrum of 1.8 gigahertz to 2.6 and now 3.4, 3.8 with the 5G, and then going into higher spectrum portfolios or very lower ones, 700, 800. All these things will become a part of the mobile capability. So mobility and the fixed capability are very complementary. They're providing different things, so the evolution of mobility is entering into the ultra low latency applications, digital transformation. The fixed networks are enabling us to get much more this data capacity, right? So growth in data is around 60% year on year. So we need to get that computing power with a network. At the same time, things are much more connected to the edge. So all these capabilities create a digital fabric between the fixed networks, the mobile networks, edge computing, security, and then all over that orchestration. So then how do we manage a complete converged solution for our customers? So it's not, there's also the Wi-Fi 6 and the Wi-Fi 6E and 5G. There's some advantages of 5G which are really important. It's the fact that interference, you avoid interference. You have the predictability of having a capacity for your quality, for your service. So you can actually have microservices on the edge or across a macro that will enable us to have, video surveillance or different slices, different services with different quality of services on the same physical infrastructure. So these are the evolutions that we're going to see from 2024 and beyond with the evolution of the network. So these are very complementary. It's just the power of the 5G gives you some of that sort of indoor as well as outdoor connectivity in with high capacity, IoT, and the mobility of working anywhere, or the IoT that can be anywhere on a car or in a fixed position, etc. gives that sort of flexibility to have the outside mobility world as well as the inside and the the fixed areas. So they all interlinked.
Fotis, I've got a quick response I want from you from this one, but you've got to answer it, okay? So how is BT going to ensure that 5G connectivity is going to be continuous across non-city town areas? I live in the Welsh Valleys, this is from Paul Gray, and the 4G connectivity here is spotty at best.
Mm-hmm. So the program has not completed. 4G still is the fabric, I would say, the underlying capacity, which gives you absolutely great speed. So 5G in the beginning is going to be a combination of cities, but also private networks that can go in any other location in a rural area, subject to, of course, that we have good, fiber backhaul. So 5G is not necessarily only for high capacity areas of cities, but it's also for rural areas in form of hybrid and so on. But actually, as the years go, in the next 2-3 years, we are developing that sort of 5G, how would I call it, deployment, which will be connected with 4G. So 4G and 5G will be basically the same technology. That means by piggybacking on the physical locations of 4G, we will start having 5G. But it's going to be a gradual process over the years.
Well, thank you very much, Fotis. And you can see that time has got us in the end. We could carry on for hours, but we need to be mindful of the fact that people have other appointments and places or homes to go to. So a massive thank you to all our speakers today and to you all for taking time out to attend this event. In a moment or two, we're going to have one final polling question for you to answer. So please don't go anywhere just yet. I'd also like to thank the events team for all their hard work in putting this event together. I'm sure you can appreciate that this takes a lot of time and thought has gone into this programme. So please give them a virtual round of applause with me. I hope you found today's DT20 event useful in showing you how digital transformation can create powerful outcomes for your business. And just reflecting on the session, I thought it was great to hear the knowledge and insights of Dr. Nicola Millard into the world of agile working. I mean, the benefits of digital working and working from anywhere are striking. And I suppose if you achieve the right balance of being more productive whilst remotely working, but making sure that employee well-being is the heart of your strategy, then I think it's important that we seize this opportunity to change the way we work for good, but also find the right balance. So innovation, onboarding, training, and brainstorming is not left behind. Of all the technologies that is or will be the most integral to digital transformation over the next few months and years, it has to be 5G that's a key enabler. And I think that was really brought to life by Fotis earlier on. Back to that point I made earlier as well, which I think is worth repeating, is the fact that digital transformation involves combining those technologies to create powerful outcomes. And 5G alongside edge computing is a star performer. 5G certainly is a catalyst of digital transformation. And of course, we heard from Steve Benton about how you can embrace digital change without compromising your reputation by both having a flexible and secure infrastructure. And I think without trust, though, an organisation will never successfully complete its digital transformation. So maintaining trust is very important. And with Steve's role across BT, I think he was well placed to share best practice with us all to benefit. So thank you, Steve, for that. He's not only talking the talk, is he, but walking the walk as well. And what really pressed upon me, it's not only important to keep pace or ahead of the rapidly evolving global cyber threats, as we heard Steve talk about, but for all of us to switch on that human firewall. And it's also interesting to hear Ian talk about developing green tech technology, which plays an important role in that bid to reach net zero, and that collective effort amongst us all to reach net zero carbon emissions by 2050 is really striking too. A special thank you as well to Tim Mullen from Gloucestershire Hospitals NHS Foundation Trust for talking so candidly about how they've embraced digital transformation in the last 2 years. Last year has been a real speed through digital transformation, hasn't it? And the impact it's already having and their upcoming plans. It was really kind of him to do that. In terms of follow-ups and next steps for DT20, remember to have a look at the resources page on the event platform. It contains some really useful information, case studies, videos, podcasts, and all the key themes discussed, all downloadable, so that's good news. So have a good look through that, the page, if you haven't done so already. And if you'd like to get in touch, well, there's a Get in Touch page on the platform. Alternatively, if you'd like any further information about the topics covered, then you can do so by getting in contact through a specially created email address. It's dt20@bt.com, which you should be able to see on your screen. I know that the BT team would welcome the opportunity to have an in-depth discussion about your digital transformation journey. Now, your feedback is essential as well. So with that in mind, there'll be a follow-up mailer containing a feedback survey sent out to you shortly. When you receive this, if you could please take a few minutes to share your thoughts, that would be very much appreciated. Your feedback will help inform and shape future events, so it is a very worthwhile exercise. I mentioned that we have one final polling question, and it is as follows. Based on today's event, what would be your key priority for your organisation going forward? And there are 4 possible responses this time, a bit different from the last lot. They're not agree or disagree. This is 5G, agile working, security, or green tech. So the polling question, based on today's event, what would be the key priority for your organisation going forward? And whilst you're answering that, I'd like to bring in Sam again to get her thoughts on her key takeaways. And I know there was a question, Sam, for you as well about the priorities and challenges for the South West and Wales. So just if you want to combine the two there while we're waiting for the polling answer. But it's been a busy old couple of hours, hasn't it, Sam?
It has indeed, and I think my connection dropped at 12 as well, so more work to do there. But so let me pick up on the key challenge. So for me, it's been the last 6 months has actually probably been the most difficult of my career. But I have, without a doubt, I think our biggest challenge for BT is the continuous engagement and empowerment of our people. So I'm very clear that my purpose is to help and to serve my people so that they can in turn serve our customers. And we've been doing a number of things and leading a number of initiatives in Wales and the South West to help empower our people and make them high performing so that they can then in turn serve our customers. So that's what I've been up to, and I think that's what our biggest BT challenge is, Nadine. And then in terms of key takeaways, well, I've been at BT for just over 2 years now, as I mentioned at the start, and I'm continuously surprised about how much I learn about the business every day, and today is no exception. So whilst we are making significant progress in Wales and the South West, you heard from Tim, we've presented a number of world-leading actually facts, proof of concepts and capabilities, but we've got much more to go and much more to do across the nation and region. So if there's anything my team or I can help with, please do let us know. We'll be delighted to help.
Indeed, and we've got the poll results in actually, and I'll just get your comments quickly from that, Sam. Thank you very much for your thoughts as well. And based on today's events, what would be the key priority for your organisation going forward? Actually, agile working and 5G got the top spots there. Agile working at 57%. I think we're going to put a halo over Nicola. She's got an even bigger grin now. So what are your thoughts on those results? Agile working and 5G really taking the top spots there.
I don't think that's a surprise, is it? I think they're probably the most, well, agile working is certainly the most imminent and pressing priority. So no surprises there, but I think I've got more collaboration to do with Nicola in terms of helping our customers, I think, Nadine.
Yep, indeed. Well, thank you, Sam, so much for your thoughts, and good luck as you carry on serving Wales and the South West so well, and good luck to you and all of your team. And thank you very much for joining us today. We hope you've been inspired to keep moving your business forward, innovating and transforming the way you work. Until next time, on behalf of all the team at BT, thank you so much for joining us for DT20. We wish you the very best. Thank you again, and goodbye.